The Greyhound ride between Eugene and Reno, Nevada spans about 605 miles, passes through Sacramento, and takes approximately 14 hours if you count layovers. 10 hours of nothing but road gives you a lot of time to think. For the first 3 hours, I am slumped against my seat looking out the window until the darkness of the evening swallows everything. Then I can't help but listen to the full bus of passengers talk to one another, sounding like phantoms in the dark cabin. Soon, everyone is asleep and the cabin is silent, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I wish I could sleep too, but my mind is too full of other things, so I close my eyes, remembering Oliver. Oliver was a student of mine in my introspective journaling class, once upon a time. Picturing him now, I can see his expressionless gaze as he leaned back in his chair at the end of his group's table. Oliver was placed in my class because he was allergic to deadlines, and turned his class selection paper in very late, and my class was the only one left with any opening. Not to mix words, but Oliver could be a pain in the ass. I liked the kid. He was smart, sort of deadpan, funny, and creative, but he was unmotivated and a little lost. He often disrupted people around him. Every day he came to class unprepared. His daily journal would be shallow recounts of his day-to-day, and his art journal was practically untouched. Much like the author of The Alchemy of Teaching, Jeremiah Conway, the school believed you couldn't make students work. You could only make the consequences of not doing work very clear. There were times I wanted to hold Oliver's hand and help him do his assignments, but I knew if I started I would never stop, and he had to find the motivation on his own. Then, one cold January day about a week into the class, I assigned a project I had only just designed 2 days before, to create countries from pieces of a bigger piece of paper I had cut, that would go back together to form a continent. I gave very few parameters for designing the countries other than they had to talk to one another before putting up anything near shared borders, and they had to stay within the parameters of the piece I had given them. The report piece had to be a minimum of 2 pages. They had 2 weeks to do it. Oliver took his piece silently, grabbed several black ink pens, and began to work on his map first. He drew a very complicated topographical map complete with coding, different climate zones, roads between cities, names written in a fake language he had made up just for this assignment, and natural forests. His classmates next to him stared at his work and asked him questions. Oliver shyly agreed to help some of them design their countries, and they gave each other feedback. Slowly, both his personal and visual journals changed from blank and uninterested to bursting with loose paper when he ran out of room. At the end of the 2 weeks, you could see touches of his influence on everyone's map when we put the continent together. Oliver grew so much in 3 short weeks. He taught me the importance of free play, letting students figure it out for themselves. In The Alchemy of Teaching, Conway states, "Sometimes the most important lessons are the ones taught in between the lines." I've seen this idea played out in different scenarios, but none so vivid as this one. Today, Oliver is a music major, graduating senior, and plans on writing novels and playing music. I think about him now, how different he is, how much he's grown. He smiles much more now. The sun starts to come up over Sacramento. The people on the bus stir, but no one says anything. I sit in the third seat from the middle, silent and still in the pale morning, tears in my eyes as I come back to reality, thinking about the kids who were once my students and how well they're doing now. I miss them. Do they know how much they taught me?